This is 13.3 parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel and perpendicular lines is not covered on the quiz that you're going to be taking tomorrow. But you should have these notes taken. This should be a review of what you did in Algebra 1 because I know Mr. Lewis and I did this last year with you. So when we look at parallel and perpendicular lines, I think you'll remember this. I'll just do a line here on Desmos for you. Okay, and you can see as I start another one in green, I want them parallel. I don't want them to intersect. Well, if I have a rise and a run, I'm going to want them to be the same. Because if I rise and run the same amount, then they'll never run into each other. Okay, if I rise, in this case 4/10, so 4/10, 4/10, they're never going to intersect because they're going at the same rate. So parallel lines do have the same slope. That's the important piece you're going to want to use for that. Now when we look at perpendicular, the first thing you should definitely notice is in order for me to flip this around, I got to change the sign. Okay? So they're both kind of increasing, decreasing. If they're perpendicular, they need to go in different directions. So I'm going to need to get this the right way. Okay? I need to go different directions. That's the first idea. If one's increasing, the other one has to be decreasing. So usually the first guess that people have is that they're opposites. And you can see that here. I have a positive half, a negative 1/2. I've got the different directions, but I don't have the right angle there. What you're going to look for with the right angle is an opposite reciprocal. Okay, you'll get the 90-degree angle. And perhaps the easiest one to look at is the very axes that you look at. We already talked about that a horizontal slope has a horizontal line has a slope of 0. A vertical line has a slope of undefined because it is the inverse or the reciprocal of that. Okay, so you're going to flip the rise and the run, and you're going to change the sign to make sure they're going in different directions. So perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So we're going to go fill those in here, and we're going to say that these have equal, and these we will say have opposite reciprocal. Changing the sign, because we talked about changing the direction, and then reversing the rise and the run. Okay, so in the table below, R and S are parallel. T is perpendicular to R. So what I'd like you to do is push pause, and if this is the slope, fill in the other answers. So push pause now and fill in your table. Okay. And these are your answers. So R and S, since they were parallel, all of these down the line should be the same. And T should be the opposite reciprocal. So it should be the opposite sign and the fraction flipped over. So if you need to push pause to check your answers, please do so. In the next one, again, I would like you to push pause. If you're in the classroom right now, I'd like you to work together to answer the next 3 questions on your own, and then you can come back and check your answers. Okay, so as we move through, if R is a horizontal line, then it has a slope of 0 because it is not rising any. So the 0 is in the numerator. And since S is parallel to it, it has the same slope, a slope of 0. If K is perpendicular to N and N has a slope of 0, the slope of K is the opposite reciprocal. The opposite doesn't really matter here because we're talking about 0 and 0 is neutral. But that means the 0 is now going to be in the denominator, which gives us an undefined slope. For the quadrilateral ABCD, you'll find the slope between 2 points. So between A and B and C, C and D, and A and D. I did that here. Again, I talked to you about yesterday that you could do that by just doing 7 minus 7 over negative 2 minus 3. Some of you can kind of look at that and say, well, to go from 7 to 7, I'm going to rise 0. To go from negative 2 to 3, I'm going to go 5, positive, negative. And you can see once I've done the slopes, I've now proven that AB and CD are parallel because they have equal slopes, and BC and AD are parallel because they have equal slopes. I can also, looking at this, prove to you it's not a rectangle because the consecutive sides, or the ones next to each other, aren't opposite reciprocals. Okay, so we're going to follow the same idea here. I'd like you to please answer these questions on your own by pushing pause. Work through these on your own, thinking, and then come back and check your answers. Working through those, you should get the PQ has a slope of negative 6/7. Again, you may have said, oh, to go from 8 to 2, I go down 6. And to go from negative 3 to 4, I move to the right 7. You may have done 8 minus 2 is 6. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. In the end, it comes out to be negative 6/7. Parallel lines have equal slopes. You can see that here. And a perpendicular line, this is actually incorrect, should be positive 7/6. I should be changing the sign as well as flipping it. So the perpendicular segment is going to have a slope of 7/6. Okay, the next question said use slopes to show the triangle ABC is a right triangle. So a couple ways you could have done that. You could have done that with the distance formula and then used the sides and the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. But since they said slopes, I do think that's the easiest way. I found the slope between points A and B. I found that to be 2. Then I found the slope between points B and C, and I found that to be negative 1/2. Since AB and BC have opposite reciprocal slopes, we know they are perpendicular. By the definition of perpendicular, that means angle B is a right angle, and that proves it's a right triangle. All right, then we have a diagram here. RSTU is a rectangle. Notice that I did tell you that's important. I told you that to start. I only gave you 2 of the points. That's all you actually need. So please don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. So go ahead and find the slope of all these segments. Okay, so you can see I did that here. I really only calculated the slope of RS with the 2 points, and then I used my knowledge of rectangles that RU is got to be perpendicular, so it has to be the opposite reciprocal. ST has to be perpendicular or parallel to RU, so you could have used a bunch. So that's equal to 2, and UT has to be parallel to RS, so that has to be equal slopes, negative 1/2. Okay, and the teacher will have the homework that you can work on that would be due in 2 days. So that's the end.